Recently, I've been playing Shadows of the Damned, right? A while back, I was playing Lollipop Chainsaw. I was playing lots of games on Nintendo Switch that had somewhat strong sexual themes and ideas. The reason I'm bringing this up, right? The reason I'm talking about how Shadows of the Damned has you walking across a woman's naked body, with full frontal boobies in plain view, right? The reason I'm bringing this up is that it directly contradicts Idea Factory's claim that Neptunia is being censored by Nintendo, because there are so many examples of other games on the eShop that have come out recently that have had absolutely no issues. Right? To me, it couldn't be more obvious that for whatever reason, the industry is trying to create this narrative that Nintendo of America is censoring games again, when that never happened to begin with, but that they're censoring games again, and that PlayStation has become like woke free over the past couple of weeks. Like, again, it's a huge cup, right? It is incredible how hard that grifters like Grums and the censorshitters, Niche Gamer, those guys have been trying to portray this narrative that Nintendo has had some kind of guideline change over the past couple of weeks that censors bikinis and games, when you can go on the eShop right now and find games called like Hentai Girls on it. Like, I'm pretty sure there hasn't been any, that Neptunia has not specifically been targeted for being too sexy, okay? It isn't happening. And yet you have all of these people, anonymously trying to pretend it is, that Nintendo has some kind of severe issue with, like, sexual content in games, when that really couldn't be true at all. Just look at Xenoblade. Just look at Bayonetta. Oh, wait a minute. Those people are claiming those games were censored or toned down as well. It's almost like nothing what these people say has any basis in reality or what Nintendo is actually doing with their games. If you were actually being genuine, if you were being honest about this, you would know that PlayStation has had a much stronger history of desexualizing female characters than Nintendo has had in recent years. But for some reason, there is this complete unwillingness from the weeb community to bring themselves to face it. Because one of the big rallying things against Nintendo back in the day was this idea, this myth, that they actively censor games and ruin the experience, which is not and never has been true, but it's been like a rallying cry for pretendos for decades now, right? Like, it's one of the big reasons why a lot of these people will never, ever, ever support Nintendo, because they're seen as being the worst about this. And yet, when you see situations like this, when you see these people insisting that Nintendo is definitely censoring Neptunia, what you find is just a lot of false narratives. You see no evidence. You see like no officially stated guideline changes from Nintendo. You see countless counterexamples to the contrary of what people are saying is happening, right? You look at the reality of the situation, and suddenly this idea that Nintendo has gone more woke than PlayStation over the past couple of weeks completely falls apart. And when you look at what's happening, right, when you look at like the threads, and when you look at what these people are saying, they're trying to tell you that Nintendo is prepping to become the most censorship-happy company in the industry just in time for the Switch 2 release. To me, this couldn't be more obvious that this is an attempt at trying to steer people away from the Nintendo Switch successor. This is an attempt at trying to gaslight people into thinking that Nintendo is going to make some major changes with the Nintendo Switch 2 ecosystem that ruins the experience, that they're not going to allow any of the good games on there anymore, and that they're going to crack down on it harder than PlayStation ever did, and that Nintendo is like, I've seen people suggest that like Nintendo of America has somehow taken control over NCL, and that they're running the show now, which is like completely and utterly retarded. You know, people people do that thing where they're just like, well, it happened to Sega, like, but Sega was always an American company, right? Like that, which is why they had way more of a power imbalance. But when you actually look at um, when you actually look at the situation, when you actually what's been going on with Nintendo and like this story as it develops, it couldn't be more obvious that like this idea that Nintendo is targeting specific games could not possibly be true. And we've seen this happen over the past several months, I think over a year now, where developers make some weird statement about how Nintendo is targeting them and how they're not allowed to make to make releases on their Switch, and it gets their audience fired up and ready to support them. And it's just a marketing tactic. It always has been. These games have nothing going for them. They're not interesting. They're not fun. They're not good. They're not high quality. They're not even that sexy, if we're going to be completely honest with you. But because Nintendo is targeting them, it becomes this deal of just like, ooh, we have to protect these honest Japanese devs from the evil Nintendo. And it's just a giant cope. It really is. And what it all amounts to is it's just a method of fabricating controversy. It's just a method of trying to downplay Nintendo and trying to act as if the company is on the way out or can't succeed next gen or won't be able to do anything. For me, this is a sign of just how desperate the industry is getting to keep the illusion going. The idea that Nintendo like will is only for kids, bro, and that PlayStation is the big boy console. Like to me, this is just an attempt at like maintaining that narrative. And with that being said, it really needs to be understood when talking about the games that have supposedly been blocked by NOA. A lot of them are also not getting released on Steam. The way it looks to me is that these developers are specifically trying to steer their Western fans back onto the PlayStation plantation. And that is something that absolutely cannot be allowed to happen.